You check your net worth statement. House, $420,000. Car, $35,000. Wedding ring, $8,000. Add it up and you feel good. You feel like a person who has made it. Now I want you to ask one question about every single thing on that list. Does it pay you or does it bill you? That's it. That's the whole test. Not, is it worth something? Not, could I sell it? Does it put money in your pocket every month or does it take money out? Most of what you call your net worth fails that test. And today, we're going through 12 of the biggest offenders. The things almost every household owns, the things you were told were smart to buy, the things that quietly drain a working life's worth of income while feeling like progress. Let's start with the one everyone already suspects, and then get into the ones that will actually make you angry. 1. The car. You already know cars lose value. What you don't know is how the math actually plays out. A new car loses roughly a fifth of its value in the first year alone. By year 5, you're often looking at a vehicle worth less than half what you paid. Sometimes far less, depending on the model. But depreciation isn't even the main event. Add up payments, insurance, gas, maintenance, and repairs over a typical ownership period, and total cost of ownership for a mid-sized new car frequently runs well past $50,000 across 5 years, for an asset that will be worth a fraction of that when you're done. A car doesn't produce anything. It moves you from place to place. A service, not a store of value. Everyone downstream of the sale, the manufacturer, the lender, the insurer, the mechanic, gets paid whether or not the car ever makes you $1. It's not an asset. It's the most normalized liability in America. 2. The house. Sometimes. This is the one that gets people defensive, so let's be precise. A house can be an asset. Most primary residences, run honestly through the numbers, are closer to break-even than people want to admit. Take out a 30-year mortgage and the interest alone can rival or exceed the original loan amount depending on the rate. Add 3 decades of property tax, insurance, and maintenance. Maintenance alone is often estimated at around 1% of home value per year, and total cost of ownership balloons far past the sale price. For the house to have clearly beaten the alternative, it needs enough appreciation to outpace all of that, plus what the down payment would have earned sitting in an ordinary index fund instead. That's not impossible. It happens in strong markets. But it isn't guaranteed, and 2008 proved it isn't guaranteed at scale. Millions of homeowners who did everything right ended up owing more than their homes were worth. A house isn't automatically an asset. It's a leveraged bet on a local market, wearing the costume of financial wisdom. 3. The degree. College is sold as a single product with a single return. It isn't. It's thousands of different products with wildly different returns depending on the major, the school, and the debt taken on to get there. The earnings boost from a degree is real in aggregate, but that aggregate is dragged upward hard by a handful of high-earning fields. For a large share of graduates, the earnings bump never catches up to what the degree cost, especially once you factor in the years of income given up while studying. Total student debt in the U.S. is now in the trillions, spread across tens of millions of borrowers, and a meaningful share of them see their balance grow over time because minimum payments don't outpace interest. The degree isn't the asset. The skill, the network, or the credentials' actual market demand is the asset. And none of those are guaranteed just because you paid tuition. 4. Whole life insurance. The pitch sounds responsible. Pay premiums your whole life, build cash value, leave a death benefit. 1 product, 2 jobs. Here's the problem. It does neither job especially well. The cash value growth on most whole life policies is famously modest, often landing somewhere in the low single digits annually, frequently below what a plain index fund has returned over the same stretch of decades. Meanwhile, term life insurance gets you the same death benefit for a fraction of the premium. Buy term, invest the difference yourself, and the historical gap in outcomes over 30 to 40 years is not small. It's often the difference between a modest sum and a genuinely life-changing one. Whole life isn't a scam. It's just an expensive, mediocre hybrid product sold with the emotional register of a smart decision. 5. The gear you bought for future you. The treadmill, the guitar, the sourdough starter kit, the DSLR. The garage full of power tools for projects that never started. This category is different from the others because the failure isn't financial engineering. It's behavioral forecasting. You bought equipment for a version of yourself with more time, more discipline, or more interest than you actually turned out to have. Studies on home fitness equipment consistently find heavy drop-off in usage within the first year. The gear doesn't depreciate because it's poorly made. It depreciates because it sits. Resale value on lightly used hobby equipment is brutal, often a small fraction of retail. You're not really buying a tool, you're buying a bet on your future habits, and the house usually wins that bet. 6. Collectibles. Every collectibles boom has the same shape. A story about a rare item that's sold for a fortune, A wave of people convinced they found the next one, a flood of new supply chasing that story, and a crash. Nobody saw coming because everybody was looking at the one success story instead of the thousands of quiet failures. Trading cards in the early 90s, Beanie Babies, certain comic runs, more recently, NFTs. The pattern repeats because the underlying mechanism never changes. Value depends on scarcity, sustained demand, and a buyer showing up at the exact moment you want to sell. None of those three are things you control. For every item that appreciated, there's a landfill or an estate sale full of the ones that didn't. You just don't hear about those on the way in. 7. The wardrobe. Cost per wear is a real concept and also one of the most misapplied ideas in personal finance content. It only works if you correctly predict how many times you'll actually wear something, and most people wildly overestimate that number for anything bought with the word investment piece in mind. Clothing spend adds up fast over working life, and most closets follow a rough 80-20 pattern. A small fraction of items get worn regularly, the rest hangs there depreciating, waiting for a donation bin. Clothes aren't worthless. They're just consumption, not accumulation. The error isn't buying clothes, it's mentally filing them under building something. 8. Extended warranties. This is one of the purest expected value losses you can voluntarily sign up for. Extended warranty programs are structured so that payouts sit well below premiums collected. Industry estimates commonly put payout ratios around 20 cents on the dollar, with the rest covering administration, marketing, and profit. The pitch works because humans are bad at estimating small probabilities. A $50 warranty on a $500 TV feels like cheap insurance against disaster. But actual failure rates on most electronics within the warranty window are low, and many failures are already covered by the manufacturer. You're not really buying protection. You're buying a feeling at a markup. 9. Timeshares. If this list had a villain, it's this one. A timeshare isn't real estate. You don't own land or a structure. You own the right to use a room for a week, tied to maintenance fees you don't control, and that reliably rise faster than inflation. Resale value on timeshares is close to zero. Entire businesses exist purely to help people exit contracts they regret, sometimes for fees that rival the original purchase price. It's one of the only consumer products where the exit cost can exceed the entry cost. It is marketed as ownership. It functions as a subscription you can't cancel. 10. Furniture. Furniture depreciates faster than almost anything else people own. A couch bought for a few $1,000s might fetch a few hundred on resale. Often less, sometimes nothing. Sometimes you're paying someone to haul it away. Modern furniture is also built to a shorter lifespan than previous generations' furniture. Cheaper materials, faster manufacturing, more frequent style cycles, encouraging replacement. 11. Jewelry. Retail jewelry markups commonly run from 100% to 300% over wholesale material cost. The instant you walk out of the store, a meaningful chunk of what you paid is gone, permanently before the item has done anything except exist. Diamonds are the extreme case. A market shaped for most of the last century by supply control, and a resale market where pawn shops and diamond buyers routinely offer a small fraction of retail. 12. Cash. This is the one people never expect on a list like this, and it's the most important. Cash feels safe because it's stable and liquid, but it has a quiet, guaranteed cost, inflation. At a long-run average of around 3% annual inflation, purchasing power roughly halves every couple of decades. The number in your account doesn't move. What it can buy shrinks anyway. The people most likely to sit in cash are often the people who've been burned by markets or don't trust financial institutions, understandably in a lot of cases. But holding cash isn't neutral. It's a slow, certain erosion, just spread out enough that it doesn't feel like a loss in any single moment. Cash isn't the safe choice. It's the choice that loses quietly instead of loudly. None of these 12 things are evil. Most of them are fine to own for what they actually are. Transportation, shelter, education, comfort, memory, style.